Hi, good evening, good afternoon, namaste, adab, sat sri akal. Hi, my name is Shivali, and I welcome you to the 44th session of Talk to the Expert series. This series is designed to bring awareness on various aspects regarding the spectrum of autism. And before I take you forward in this session today, I have something to share with you, something that our team is working continuously and is working with a very commitment, with a hard commitment to this cause. So let's watch this. आइए विशिष्टताओं को अपनाएं। द स्पेक्ट्रम ऑटिज्म एक पहल है ऑटिज्म के बारे में जागरूकता और संवेदनशीलता को हर उस दिल तक पहुंचाने की जो मानवीय संवेदनाओं से धड़कता है। रास्ता मुश्किल ही सही, पर आपका साथ और प्रोत्साहन हमें हमारी मंजिल की ओर चलने को प्रेरित करता रहेगा। This is the motto that the team works continuously to create awareness around this cause. And about the guest of this particular session, we are very blessed to have her here with us. On Spectrum Autism, the month of November is earmarked to create awareness about neurodivergence. In this league, we invite Ms. Jyotsna Kumar. She's the co-founder of Club Youngistan, a certified emotional freedom technique facilitator and a blogger. Jyotsna is a late-deafened mom to 2 humans and 2 cats. She was diagnosed with sensory neural deafness at the age of 30. She has raised her younger daughter, who has cerebral palsy, to lead an equipped, independent life despite her challenges. About Club Youngistan, it is a Pune-based support group that works towards empowering individuals with special needs and their parents. Jyotsna is helping people reach a space of well-being, and she strongly believes in viewing life through a lens of infinite possibilities. And we are extremely happy and proud. I think we're very fortunate to have her here with us today. And on this note, I welcome you, Jyotsna. Hi, please join in. Jyotsna, hi, you're able to hear me? Okay, so we are having certain issues, I think some challenge at Jyotsna's end. In the meantime, let me remind you that those who have not watched the yesterday's session that we had with Judith Karunaharan, this session was organized by the Spectrum Autism team, and this was hosted by my awareness ambassador, dear friend Umayal. And I must request you all to watch this session. And now let's come back. Jyotsna is here. And hi, how are you doing, Jyotsna?
Hi, Shivani. Hi, good to see you. Thank you for inviting me here. Yes.
It's so good to have you here with us. And Jyotsna, I have given a brief introduction about you, something that you've shared with me so generously, I would say. It takes a heart to share your own story when it has its own challenges. And I think it becomes very important at the same time to share it so that others can be benefited, something that they can learn from your insights and experience. So I would request you to take our viewers through your journey, how you managed to be the person that you are, who is so inspiring.
Yeah. Thank you, Shivali. I think I truly recognize the value of sharing, especially lived experiences. And thank you for this opportunity to be able to share here today. So I'll just begin. So hello, everyone. I'm Jyotsna, and I'm a parent of a young adult with cerebral palsy. She turned 21 a week ago. It's been a very, I think overall, I could say an eventful journey with lots of highs and lows, a lot of unlearning, relearning. And I think the daily parenting challenges of actually balancing the diverse needs of neurotypical with the special needs of a neurodiverse child. I'm a mom of 2 daughters. And Anindita, my younger daughter, was diagnosed with a very rare congenital heart defect on the second day of her birth. And her condition was really life-threatening, and she immediately went on to life support, a support on which she had to remain on for the first 3 months of her life. And I think if I look back as part of the journey, the period of our lives then was seemed very unreal. I could say traumatic, could also say more like a roller coaster ride. There was a very dim chance of her survival, also a great struggle. I think a constant ongoing struggle to get that complicated surgery done. There was just one surgeon in India who could operate on her, and he was not in the place that we were located at. I know it sounds rather dramatic, like it's like a Bollywood movie or something playing out in real life, but it was truly like a bolt from the blue, completely upturned what had till then been a very regular, routine, pleasant, and easy life. And suddenly, everything just seemed complicated, complex, and even the huge medical terms that were used in connection with the heart, I think it really left me and all of us at a loss. I think later understanding the diagnosis of TGA, that is the transposition of the great arteries, I think dealing with her being on a real extended period of life support, just being able to see her from a distance, maybe I couldn't even touch her. I think the shock of that subsequent oxygen deprivation to her brain, to the brain, resulting in her acquiring the cerebral palsy, I think, and also many other related medical challenges connected with cerebral palsy and the loss of oxygen, and not really knowing, I think, what the future held. Probably the most I could now, look back and say it was a very overwhelming period of my life, also very traumatic. And it was also followed by times when I had to take some very tough decisions for her. Her corrective heart surgery was denied then because she was declared brain dead by the surgeon. And we were actually asked to, take that decision to pull her off life support, which is a huge one. I think if you look back at that, and it just felt very strange, very bleak, very hopeless then. And I think as a family, none of us really knew the long-term implications of what was involved, what it meant, what could happen, what was the future going to be like. And I think, but strangely now, if I look back again and I was thinking of how to share the story, I still will go back to the word faith. I think faith in the divine grace and faith in my baby. I think because she had shown great amount of tenacity, I would say even at that very young, tender age as an infant, holding on for life. She never gave up. She had that fighting spirit, which every doctor kept telling us, she's got that spirit. And she lasted so long. She had refused to conform to what the doctor's prediction was, that she was not going to make it. And she came off life support. Actually, I would say compelling the doctors to up for the surgery. I mean, they decided to finally do it. And she made it through the 11-hour open heart surgery. I think the doctors gave her less than, 1% chance of survival. I still recollect I had to sign a huge number of forms, making sure that I'm okay with whatever happens on the operating table. She went through the long recovery period as well, like clockwork. And that's actually a very beautiful miracle for me as well. And I think the actual journey, if I would say, that's really one part to do with her diagnosis, but the absolutely new and challenging journey began for her, for us as a family, after we got back home to Bombay, and life changed drastically. And I would also like to mention here that I also was undergoing my own personal challenge, because 4 years prior to Anindita's birth, I had been diagnosed with sensory neural deafness, which was progressive. And I myself was coming to terms with it, I think, dealing with it as well as I could. And it is a disorder that's progressive. So it also, till now, I would say, yes, I've reached a stage of profound deafness, but the condition has deteriorated. Today, I would say I'm actually unable to hear without all the technology, I use a lot of lip read. And there at that point in time, I was also, kind of very conflicted because I was also handling that part of my own personal journey with a disability. And I think it is, I think at that time, it's also comes as a reminder, I wasn't just parent one in Dita, I was also parent one and my older one. I had to be a cushion for her. She was just 6. And I think her life probably turned overnight upside down, just like ours. But she was so young. And I think probably in some way, it was like a mom to both of them. I've got to kind of hold up and, take on this journey in the best way I could. And of course, my husband was there. I don't think without him, I would have probably even reached anywhere closer to the actually healing aspect of the journey. And I think her journey with therapies began when she was 5 to 6 months old itself, soon after the heart surgery. We didn't wait. I'm really, really grateful to my pediatrician for that. I was like wondering, how on earth can he ask me, to straight away go in for therapies? The child is so frail and I'm so, stressed out, tired. But I think he was wise. He just said, go for it, because this is the time when you can really, will not have any regrets. And we started with NDT, the Neurodevelopmental Pediatric Therapy. Then we explored OT, we explored speech therapy and sensory integration therapy. The one, I think the question asked was, how am I able to hear? I'm actually just speaking, but I'm wearing hearing aids. It's actually the latest right now, the technology that I'm using. I have an iPhone. There's a mic that's attached to my MacBook. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes on before I log in for a call. And I still do get worried, oh God, will I miss words? So I still do get that anxiety of having that disability that's invisible yet so real. And continuing with Ditta's journey, of course, besides the therapies, we did opt for Botox interventions under the guidance of an orthopedic surgeon. And she had a first rehab surgery for her knee, hips and ankles in 2014. She's had successive rehabilitation surgeries to help her gain some level of independence as much as possible for CP. And she finished the last of her surgeries in April this year, which is 2 decades of her life. It's been a huge one, I think, for all of us to acknowledge that it's the last of it. And I think as a mother of a child with disabilities, if I were to sum it up, I think I was kind of like a mother on a mission. Of course, I had the therapist, I had a pediatrician, but no Google. I don't think, no smartphone, no support groups. And in some ways now, if I look back, I think the less information I had, the more I relied on my intuition while raising her. Okay, I mean, I know it's much better to have support groups, but there at that moment in time, I think I can begin to see that it did allow me more time to just tune in. What do I do next, or what does she need? And as a mother, I wasn't in a rush. I was only clear about one thing. I think all of us, my husband and I, were really clear that what we only wanted for her was to be as equipped as possible, as she could be with her condition, that was spastic diplegia with her CP. And we also began to see that it's a condition that needs management. Is the spasticity that the body has that needs management. And I didn't really want to get stuck in the diagnosis too much. Or the labels. I know we need them, but they do serve a purpose. But I think if it's a journey, and we didn't know, right? It has no ending. But one can actually look beyond, at that bigger picture of, okay, what all can we do with it? Like more the focus is what can she do? What is she capable of? Rather than me focusing on what can't she do? Let me just stay there, rather than putting that kind of a pressure, not just on her. I think even on myself, if I were to focus more on what she can't do at all. And so what we also saw was, so if she was denied admission into a school, because they didn't have the infrastructure perhaps to handle a child who was not mobile, not walking, maybe the school actually didn't have a ramp either. And it didn't mean that, she can't learn or she's incapable of learning, right? So we actually then, it was disappointing. I will not say that it hurt me very badly, like, this is just not fair and stuff like that. But there was homeschooling that we explored. There was unschooling that we explored. I think we also explored mainstream schooling. And then considering how the interests went, and she did show interest in learning, we explored the National Institute of Open Schooling, NIOS. And she also explored a lot of stuff. We basically exposed her to various aspects. So she did explore drums, music. It worked for her. It really worked for her. And I think over a period of time, she took her time to discover, what she liked, what she didn't. So we also explored very unique therapies like dance movement therapy or art-based therapy, and hippotherapy, which is like horse-based horse riding, which helps those with CP. And we just kind of, I didn't explore it in terms of looking at outcomes, but more to also allow Anindita to kind of be exposed to all of this and see what works. And I think now she's certifying to be a music therapist to teach and support. She's also a djembe facilitator. She facilitates djembe at the Club Youngistan sessions every week. And she's now pursuing as well a long distance BA degree course from Pune University. And it's all come from within her. I think it's just that we've given her the freedom that if she really doesn't want to complete it, it's fine. But if you want to do it, most willing to explore. So I think it's just opening up the doors for her and giving her the freedom to choose for herself. And I think once again, going back to as a mother, I think that because I'm also sharing from a parent perspective, it was a commitment. I also recognize my pitfalls, the pitfalls I had of believing that I can do it all. I think, I can't, I couldn't. I learned to ask for help. It's not easy. It was not easy for me. But I think that's a really huge thing when one is thrown into this particular journey, because we always say that we didn't choose it, right? In many ways, we feel that, okay, we chose it, but it's also thrust upon us in some way to handle it. And I think now in 2022, coming a long way now, Nindita is 21 and a lot more aware, definitely more empowered in understanding that I have my own needs as well. And I co-founded Youngistan with my co-mom Pratima in 2019. It started as a support group, but now it's become more of a learning platform. And for young adults with disabilities, it's also a group where parents are part of our WhatsApp group as well. We have a Facebook page. And it's finding its wings. It's a burgeoning learning platform. It's like we're really exploring possibilities, keeping our mind open to whatever works for the young adults as well. The focus is the champs always. And I think coming from that aware space has also helped me to delve into emotional freedom techniques. I've certified as a facilitator. Inner work has always been a part of my life ever since I turned deaf, because I realized that I wasn't going back to allopathy, or even I really needed to take more responsibility for not just my health, but also for my thoughts. I think I started that pretty early. I'm grateful for that. And so I do facilitate sessions for people who need help, who want to move towards well-being. And it's also coming from a space that I think each one of us does need help and support in one's life's journey. So I think that's a bit about the journey. Otherwise, I would have gone on and on, Shivali, but I'm glad I could share it here today, at least a part of it.
No, and I'm very happy and proud also. I must congratulate you because I happened to meet Anandita yesterday. I had a one-to-one session with her on Zoom, and what a wonderful young girl she has turned out to be. From how you described the early challenges of her, infanthood to now today, when I met her yesterday, I was amazed. This journey is not just about you, not just about Anandita, but growing together, and this what becomes very inspiring. And I have shared this with you earlier also, that while you were going through your own challenges, you have a young child whose needs were to be taken care of. It was a matter of survival at some time. From there to how you, both of you, your entire family rather, all three of you, your elder daughter, your husband, you, Anandita, everybody has come together, worked as a team. And I think the results are beautiful. They are so much beneficial for others also. And, when I reached out to you, the idea was to, one, know your journey. Two, there are many parents that we interact with. Some of us are still trying to have peace with our own setups and situations that we find ourselves in. Some would accept it, some will still take time. It's not easy, and we all understand it's not easy, right? So, and then you mentioned about Club Youngistan, which is like another baby. And, Pratima and you, both of you girls are doing phenomenal job there as well. We were very fortunate to have featured Club Youngistan, some products that the kids and young adults have created around Diwali basket. So that was really very beautifully done, showcased also. Jyotsna, about you personally, you do EFT, right? So please tell the viewers what it means in brief, if you can, please.
So EFT literally is like emotional freedom technique. So we're never really free of emotion. They get kept lodged in our body. So it's a mind-body technique, more about inner awareness of our feelings. And I think if I were to just put it in one line, it's like whatever we allow ourselves to feel. And if we give ourselves the freedom to feel the feelings, we begin to heal. And I always suggest that it's much better to experience a session than talk in detail about EFT. But it's just a series of tapping on certain points of the body, similar to Eastern medicine, acupressure, acupuncture. Here we just tap on the points. We say certain statements depending on what the person is experiencing. My journey started with it, I think, 6 to 7 years ago when my teacher guided me. And then I learned it in a very comprehensive way with my teacher from Sweden, Sharon, and I certified in it. That gave me more insights on how to use it as techniques. I was actually doing it for free for many parents like me, because I know that if a child has to heal or begin the journey, I think the parent definitely needs to reach some state of alignment, if I can put it that way, without any judgment. I know that not everyone is able to or even willing to feel all the pain that it can bring up. So it's also been a very long journey for me, but it has become such a simple, easy to use technique. So it's like my go-to. My day begins with it and ends with it. And the fact that I'm able to help others and I can see the difference, I think that really enriches my life. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Denial of pain, I think, begins
Yeah.
with
So for
acknowledging the
for
pain.
the audience who are watching us, I wanted to ask Jyotsna that denial of pain. When you say that some people, pain is something that we all experience. Some would accept it, some would deny the pain. So how does that affect, and how do you explain that to accept the pain and not deny it?
I think three things would be, I think you need to have a curiosity. The other would be courage. Definitely, it needs some level of bravery, and I think all of us have it, and persistence. And I'm not just talking about the inner work journey. I think as parents, especially if our children have challenges, we tend to become persistent. We are very clear, and we definitely are brave. So I think in terms of denial of pain, if the pain is there, what are we doing to distract ourselves from the pain? And I think especially when I do EFT or when we talk about it, uh, it's allowing a space, holding space to accept that pain. So in that sessions that I have, I mean, there are tears, there are, there's so much of, how would I call it, a release. That whole expression of something that perhaps the person has not felt free enough to acknowledge so far, and found that space. And I'm definitely not going to say that it's simple, but the technique is simple, and it's more about curiosity, courage, and being really persistent, and just being open and willing that, I just want to get better, or I want to feel better with all of it.
Yeah. So the drive has to come from within.
Yes.
Like the pain is within, so the drive to cure that pain also has to come from within. So yes, beautifully said. You talk about CP on various platforms when we were talking the other day, that to educate parents, to create awareness. So what are the insights that you would like to share with us regarding CP?
Yeah, in fact, thank you for asking me this. It's something that I would love to reply on, because for me, I think as a parent of a young adult now with CP, the one thing that has stood me in great stead has been early intervention. I know it's much hype because sometimes the diagnosis can come later, but early intervention it's helped me to understand her CP better, the spastic diplegia, because I still remember, feeling so exhausted with the thought of having to start therapies when she was just 5 months. We've already had such a prolonged journey with her, the heart surgery, and her therapy was literally twice a day, 6 days a week. So if you can see, it took a big chunk of our lives, especially when there were Botoxes. And I think that's one part, but also the understanding comes that it's not me alone. It's a teamwork going on. If you have a developmental pediatrician, a therapist, an NDT or whoever, and an orthopedic surgeon, I think somewhere there is a sync, right? Because you know that I can ask this person for support, or, it's like that understanding, okay, it's time to now delve into OT, maybe, or occupational therapy. Okay, she's gesturing, so maybe we can explore speech. I'm not saying it's constantly tuning in, but when you begin to see that it's teamwork and not remaining outcome oriented, I feel. I think I wasn't very outcome oriented. I just went with the flow. And I also acknowledged the fact that I was hugely fatigued. I was really burnt out. But despite that, I can actually say now in hindsight, I value those therapies. I value the home programs. I remember our speech therapist sharing. I remember doing them at home at leisure, speech therapy, and I think sensory integration therapy. Both of them are on my blogs. And, and I realize that value now, because now when some other parent reads it and says, it's really working, I begin to see that early intervention, the earlier I began it, I see the results now. And I think the second aspect is also about learning to ask for help. I mentioned it earlier, because it's just time out, unbinding. I think many parents, especially me, I used to feel very guilty. I can't do this easily. And, how am I going to leave my daughter? And I can't do this. And but at that time, of course, you can ask in groups, you can ask other moms, you can ask the therapist. For example, my back was so bad. It took me a bad back to actually ask the senior NDT therapist, which was very old and senior. And I was so scared. I didn't want to ask for help, but the back went. And then I later understood, it took for my back to start hurting so badly that I couldn't carry the baby to therapy for me to ask for help. So I always tell mother, just ask. If they say no, it's fine, but just ask and you will receive it. And I didn't. I learned the hard way. So I always try and see if I can put that in as an insight for other moms. And self-care, I think it comes in there as well, because it was just coming from the realization that the more aligned or the little more balanced out that I am, it would definitely help the child, the team that works with my child, the therapist, maybe the people I interact with. And if I can just sum up that bit, I think the diagnosis turned our world upside down. We had a very normal, regular life until then. But what we decided to, I think, do it very organically was, as a family, we just chose that to see it as it is. Okay, it's happening, right? I mean, it can't unhappen. So what can we do with it the best way possible? I think that was the way we actually went about life. And I probably use the word acceptance there, but because once that acceptance of what is happens is when things begin to unfold. Because then, and I'm not saying that the acceptance is always, there could be denial in certain stages, but accepting that particular situation, that this is happening, or rather moving from why me to why not me. Okay, I mean, simple that. And I think that is probably something. And going back to that again, early intervention, don't work with timelines, ideally, is what I remember being guided as well. And understanding that it seems so uphill, especially in the earlier years. It seems really impossible, but I think it's difficult, but not impossible, because it's just a matter of trying to see what works best, what can be done and what can't be done, and trying to see what is coming up then. Yeah.
So you mentioned about acceptance, you mentioned about staying positive, you mentioned about asking for help. I remember the other day when we were talking and you mentioned that keep away from toxic positivity. So please enlighten us what you actually mean by that.
Yeah, so sometimes it's like, okay, the story I'm sharing right now is so positive, right? I mean, it's so uplifting, and if I can use the word inspiring, maybe, or I've been told that. But to be very honest, that's just part of it. I would actually say there were more lows than highs. It definitely took its toll on me mentally. So I choose to not focus on the toxic positivity bit of it. It's good to be positive. It becomes toxic when it's too much, or when we're not highlighting the non-positive parts as well. Because there is a huge part that, we tend to go more towards the positive because it's more feel good. But even to reach to the positive, there is so much of, if I can say, the so-called negative or the so-called absolutely tough, cruel, terrible, horrible times that one goes through. So even when it comes to Anindita, I always leave her the choice if she like to be a self-advocate for herself. It's a choice that she would like to make or needs to make for herself. Because if you look at it, if somebody were to look at her, they probably would not be able to make out she has CP. But when I started out my journey with her, I was not headed in that direction. I was not aiming that the world should see her without CP, normal and able and stuff like that. For me, she has CP, she has this spasticity. So it's a very loaded term, Shivali. It's like I could go on on it, but yeah. Thank you for asking me that.
Yeah, so it is important to stay positive. It is important to look at the success. It is important to let go the failures, but it is important to acknowledge the struggles. It is important to acknowledge the failures also. It is important to not be okay at times when you're not okay. So acceptance of your own emotions, like you do in EFT, I think acceptance there also is the key to move forward. My next question to you is on inclusion. So these days we are running an inclusion drive. It's a pledge that we request people to take. And the pledge is that I take a pledge to be inclusive and accept the unique. So we are trying to reach 1 million hearts. I know it's a long uphill climb for us right now, but that's what we're aiming for. So what are your thoughts on inclusion? How do you see that happening and what can be done about it?
It's quite a hugely loaded term, I would say, and quite ambiguous at times because I was experienced in different ways. But there was one very beautiful thing that I read on inclusion where it stayed with me, and it said that if 1 in 20 children have a disability, that actually gives the 19 other children, an opportunity for friendship, inclusion, and even say to learn about diversity. Understanding that is not about that one child, but the 19 others are actually learning so much about it. And I think the question that always stays with somebody who has a disability and is raising a child with disability is that, why do we need to demand inclusion? Isn't it just natural? Should it be happening very organically and naturally to be included and belong, no matter how we are or what the challenges that we face? And I do strongly believe that those with disabilities have, their own skills, capacities, beliefs, values. And I think that it's these abilities that they have also that, it will help them to reduce the influence of their problems in their daily life, and that can happen only if they're part of the system very organically. And it's also about understanding that they do have the agency, agency to share, to speak up. And actually, if they're allowed to move from, the stories of, say, despair and helplessness, which is what we see, right? You just see somebody struggling in a wheelchair or somebody trying to access something, somebody not able to see. If they're able to move from stories of despair to, say, stories of hope, or say stories of possibilities, for example, it's so much more likely for the individual, it makes it more easier for them. Not just for them, I think it's also for the team who takes care of their well-being. And it's really a huge thing, I think, warranting, a whole session on it. But personally speaking, since I come from a space of lived experience with the disability, and believe me, it's really tough because my deafness is invisible. Hearing loss, deafness is an invisible disability, and yet it's so real. I've often had to hear that you speak so well, you speak so fluently, I would never know you're deaf, or you don't look deaf, or I forget that you're deaf, or how come you don't hear with the hearing aid? Isn't it like glasses? And I used to react a lot to it. I used to get really upset and angry. And I've also begun to see now that those questions are also come from a space of curiosity, maybe not from necessarily a space of insensitivity, and also from a space of that person not really knowing What do I do with this? So I've had people raise their voices to speak, and I've had to tell them that, I don't need you to amplify the sound. You just need to face me. So I'm okay with saying that. I wasn't okay with it, say, 15 years ago, and the deafness I'm now been deaf for nearly 25 years. So again, it's a journey that unfolds with the disability. But there is always a strong part of me that I won't say I'm an activist, but I always say, I don't need to ask for accommodations. It got to be there for me, and it need to be there naturally. And if I were to just say it, I think inclusion is a mindset. And I remember being told this by our developmental pediatrician that inclusion begins at home. And I would really, really agree with that. Like, I know, for example, without knowing it then, for us, it would begin at the dining table, because there was one meal we would always eat together as a family. And it stopped because my younger one was born and she was totally floppy, she didn't have any movement, anything. But then there was something in me that said that, let me just try, put on the high chair, try to modify it, try to get her supported, got her a plate that stuck on to the table. So she would drop, and whatever the movement was. But just that simple, you can call it a ceremony. It's like, okay, we were four hour together. The three of us are probably sharing about our day, and which was what was the norm before she came in. But in many ways, I know it would have made Anindita also feel included, even though she was a baby. It also made us feel, yeah, she's part of it. We are making her part of it, and we've accepted it. So I always go back to that memory about understanding that how much of acceptance of the child's condition or diagnosis begins, I think, at home with the family. And that's automatically, definitely going to be reflected, because we also learn to ask them eventually that, yes, I need this provision, or I would like this because I'm not able to, and I think that probably makes the journey much easier. Yeah, but thank you for asking me that, Shivali.
Now, you mentioned inclusion begins at home, and that is what we are trying to incorporate and trying to create awareness that, small things that we can do at home, we can do in the community, certain do's and do nots that we try to look from each session that we take, each meeting that we have. See, how do you make sure that this happens? Certain ideas, if you get simple tips, we can get. So in the process, you mentioned somewhere about self-care, that self-care is so important. So a natural question from me to you is, what do you do for your self-care?
I started so late, I remember, because I've always been caregiver. I also had my parents stay with me, which was a blessing. But yes, I mean, I never gave it much importance. I think till the body started giving me signs that, hey, Joe, come on, stop, pause, breathe and reflect. Yoga has been a big part of my life for many years. So I would say if a normal day for self-care from the inner work angle usually begins with meditation for me. That includes yoga, the tapping and journaling. Journaling is a recent habit, but it's been there now with me for 2 years. And it's just a scribble or some few lines kind of a thing. And I do love my pets. I think my animals are the biggest stress busters for me. I don't really have to do anything with them. Just seeing them kind of makes me feel so much lighter, happier, so much more centered. And my garden. There are small tasks. It's not that I'm very rigid about the self-care routine, but I do also come from a space of responsibility. I have clients I work with for, say, EFT, or I'm going to meet parents who've got issues to do with their own mental, physical well-being. They need support. And I realize that importance. If I go into that space, I've got to bring in a kind of some energy where I myself am feeling centered, right? I'm not going to go into that space feeling all the angst and anger or whatever say has happened in my life. And I do work with a person who supports me in my tapping journey. I have my teachers. So it is, I think it's a very ongoing journey now, and I'm very committed to it. Because I started late. So I think that's always the first thing I say is that, let go of the guilt. I used to be a very, very guilty mom. I was like, no, I've got to do it and I can do it. And I got that super mom label, which, was really amazing until it hit me physically. And I was wondering, I wasted all these years, thinking I'm a super mom, and understanding the limits that I can do it. I can't do it all. I need help, and it's okay. And it's okay. But
Yeah.
I think now lots of moms, I think, definitely self-care. And it's beautiful seeing that. And I think in no way would I think, of judging and stuff like that, because at that time when I was raising her, I didn't have access to groups where you exchange and say, no, let's do this class together. This really helped me, or listen to this sleep meditation. Now there is so much of information, beautiful stuff. Try this mudra. You get that so much of
Information.
yes, information that is helpful. You can use it at any time.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
it's really amazing, and I think I'm a great one for telling every mother, please take out time for yourself, ask for help, and you'll surely get it.
You can be the brand ambassador for the next event that we are going to have in the coming week. We are organizing a 7-day long kind of workshop, small modules for self-care. Idea is to encourage the caregivers, parents, mothers, young adults, kids, and almost everybody to invest some time in expression. It can be in art form, it can be a doodle, it can be painting. We have experts who are coming, experts money, we're artists who are doing this as their own hobby, and they have experienced the impact of using this as a therapy. So next 7 days, starting 7th of this month till about 14th, the agenda is to nourish and nurture the child within this children's day. So invest some time in self-care. This, and Jyotsna is the brand ambassador. She just now mentioned that everybody needs to do something for self-care. So, Jyotsna, any ending notes, any messages that you like to share towards the community or to the parents?
I think more about, I really wanted to share about the role of the community, because I think that was also one of the reasons why we started Youngistan, because now it's become a community space for the young adults with disabilities, just to bond, interact, share, be themselves, facilitate, learn. And I've also begun to see that I know that my disability does, it does impact the way I experience the world around me. And I'm sure it does for my daughter and for those with challenges. And all of us need that community that just kind of accepts us as we are, without us having to hide it, or without us having to feel scared about admitting it, or without us having to adapt ourselves to fit in. And I think our voices do matter. And the community space is perhaps is something I'm truly beginning to understand the value of, because they can be allies in our journey. So especially if there are neurotypicals wanting to understand how they can help us or be more tuned in, I think the first thought that always comes in, there is always an interconnectedness, isn't there? I mean, we are all interconnected always, and whether we are different or whether we are whatever. And it's just that I think the only thing I think for the community is who does not know anything about disabilities is to stay curious. I think ask questions. I love to answer, and maybe earlier I didn't, but almost everyone I know in the field of disabilities is very keen to kind of say, this is what I feel, or this is what I struggle with. And I think the most important thing is to accept that I think each one of us is so uniquely wired. So it's not just about the specific disabilities. So even in CP, such a broad spectrum of CP, right? I mean, there's mild, moderate, severe, there's spastic diplegia, there's, so it's more about, I think, acceptance of what is, staying curious, asking questions, and be our allies. Yeah.
Well, we are there for the same purpose, because we keep asking a lot of questions every week. We invite two people who are very kind and generous like you, who accept the invites to talk and answer, all these questions that we put up to you. And you do it so generously. So thank you, Jyotsna, on behalf of the entire the Spectrum Autism team. I thank you for sharing such beautiful insights and your journey so bravely. Like you said, it needs a lot of courage to share the pain and the experience. So thank you so much, and I hope that you keep coming back on our platform to talk about more about your journey, and maybe someday we do a session on EFT where you are the expert and we get the benefit of EFT. So
I would love to do that, Shivali. I would love to help in whatever way I can. It's more like helping even one person understand well-being, or even experiencing it in some way. Yeah. And thank you so much for today. I think I haven't shared in a while, so for me also to bring it all together was also a reminder of how rich a lived experience disability can be, and how much of learning there is also in the sharing. And I do hope that it brings in or gives even one person who has listened in or tuned in a hope and a little bit of more understanding about how journeys can be very different. Yes.
Wow. And so enriching. So both sides, right? So we evolve with each of these sessions that, you interact with the other person. So thank you so much. And we're looking forward to meet Anandita sometime whenever that she's comfortable. But thank you for today and have a wonderful future and very best wishes to you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
For those who have tuned in, I would request you to please take a pledge of inclusion and support this drive wholeheartedly the way that you've been doing so far. Thank you so much for joining us today and have a happy weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.